Welcome, Joey, to Dad Talk, which is what I call this thing where I interview people. Thank you so much for joining me for this.
Thanks for having me.
Let's begin. Let's begin with. I mean, you and I just did Rock Players. It was 2 hours and a lot of fun. But let's. Is this bot going in?
Actually,
Yeah,
it's great that we both still have our voices.
yeah. I mean, we've been talking for 2 hours, and now we're gonna go in for. I'm guessing this will take another 2 hours because you're a really interesting guy to talk to.
Thank you.
Yeah, before we do get started, 'cause some people probably didn't watching this after fact or watching this coming into the fresh. probably didn't see your introduction to rock players. So, who are you, and what do you do for a living? And what have you done for a living the last couple of years?
My name's Joey Kalitovic, and I'm unemployed. Please give me a job. No.
I mean, yeah, please do. But
Yeah, right. Yeah, seriously. No, but no, I'm Joey Kalitovic. I'm a game designer. I specialize in narrative design, and in the last year, um, learned what we just talked about was a niche skill of designing touch controls for Xcloud games. And got really into that. Um, I've been in the gaming industry for almost 9 years now. Had a few different roles. Um, Again, a large focus in narrative design and writing in general. Prominent leadership roles and general game design with different engines.
but then before we then get into like the more detail about the stuff you've been doing, you mentioned on the previous show that you proposed to your now wife with your fiance with like a Zelda theme. Like I
Yep,
need I think we need to
Hylian
delve into
sword.
it. Yeah, we need to
Okay.
delve deeper here. We're like tell
this is
from
this
beginning
is
to end.
the
Like I want to hear
important
this.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So when me and my wife first met, this is God. I mean, how deep do we want to go?
As deep as you want to go.
My mom introduced us, so that's nice and weird to start off with. She, it was so funny. She called me and was like, him hawing around, saying, "Well, do you?" And I'm like, "What? Is something wrong?" And she's like, "Would you want to go on a date with my coworker?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna need a little more information than just that."
Yeah, I'm gonna like that's a weird beginning of this sentence. Yeah.
But she didn't even realize how much we have in common. We're the same age, but well, my wife is older than me, just not that much older than me,
Yeah.
like my mom's age. But um, uh, so on our first date, um, because of that, the whole interconnection thing, and a kind of a goofy thing, we would have gone on a dinner date, but my mom said, "Oh, we should just go on a lunch date." I'm like, "Oh, that must be what Christina, my wife, would prefer." So I proposed that, and then Christina asked my mom, "Why do you ask me on a lunch date? That's weird." And but so we went out, had lunch, and then we were both like, "Okay, well, we still want to hang out, so like let's go see a movie later." So we got movie tickets and had time to kill. So um, I live nearby, and so we went to hang out at my place. And first thing you walk in to my old place, you would see a Hylian shield and Master Sword hanging on the wall. And
Nice.
so
I mean,
she saw that and said, like, "Whoa, you have." And I think I had told her that I had them, but I think she expected them to be on display. She was like, "Whoa, can I hold the sword?" And they were kind of rigged together, so I looked at it. I was like, "Okay, well, I can't take the sheath down, but I could unsheath the sword." But I was like, "It's not sharpened, but it is sharp, so be careful." And she's like, "It's a real sword? Can I swing it?" And I was like, "Not inside." And so she went out in my backyard and started cutting grass with the Master Sword. And so I was like,
and we cutting
I'm not.
grass with it as well. That's perfect.
Yep. Well, we're both huge Zelda fans, so I I'm not a strong proponent of like love at first sight or anything like that. But in that moment I was like, she might be the one. Like this is
Yeah.
pretty epic. But so we fast forward to a little over 2 years later, I think. And I was going to propose, and I knew that my wife's favorite kind of present is getting to pick her present. So there are definitely things I surprise her with, but the more expensive it is, the better idea it is to have her choose. So
Yeah.
I kind of always knew that for her like engagement ring that she would wear and wedding ring, that it would be something that she picked out herself. So I was like, so I'm not going to propose with a ring. What should I propose with? And I was like, well, a Master
The
Sword.
Master Sword.
Like
Yeah.
so I did. I got a miniature one and had the life size one, and I actually had my roommate. We were all living together, so our roommate, while we went out to see a movie and get dinner at her favorite place, he set up this like pedestal that I had gotten together, put the sword in it, and then he had an extra touch. He had an external battery, and he plugged in this Triforce light in front of it. So when we got home, I saw it. And I was like,
Nice.
"You gonna see it before we get there." She didn't notice a thing until we took the dog out for the night in our backyard, and then she saw it. And she's like, "What's happening? What's going on?" And then a nice added touch. I'm a singer, and so I sang "Can't Help Falling in Love with You" by Elvis Presley, and she said yes. So
Awesome. That yeah, that
yeah,
that's an amazing story. Way better than my proposal story. Because it's mine is very boring. Like not only in comparison,
I'm
but
sure it's
mine is
romantic.
kind of boring. But yeah, but you also like, I mean, you mentioned before as well that you have a 2-year-old or soon to be 2 year
Yeah.
old.
hmm
So like, do they understand what you do for a living yet, and do they think
I don't
it's as cool as I
know.
do?
It. I was to say not. Um, not. He doesn't understand what I do, or like I can't. I could tell him, but he's not gonna like grasp what I
No, no.
do. But he does enjoy it. Like so with my job at Xcloud, we didn't have to have him in daycare because of the work was so flexible. I could just work while he took naps and when he was asleep, and then when he was up, I would be stay-at-home dad and hang out with my son,
Nice.
which is super cool. But sometimes I got to double dip a little bit, and there'd be a cool kids game, especially ones from Outright Games. Um, I I was super grateful for those games because he was grateful for those games. He was excited to watch me play those
Yeah.
games,
I
and so
mean,
that's a part of
for him, that's
building
like
these.
watching Peppa Pig. Like, there's no difference
Yep,
between playing that game and watching it, really.
yep. And so
I,
that's like part of building the touch controls is getting to know the games. Some of them I was fortunate enough to know already, um, but certainly Peppa Pig, I did not know the Peppa Pig game, so I had to play through that and build the controls and then test them and um, implement the art assets after Katie made the. Um, I'll give her another shout out. Katie Calloway designed assets for the games and for the touch controls, and yeah, it was cool. Uh, it was cool getting to share that like dream job with my son. Like it was more
yeah,
than just this like really cool experience for me.
yeah, I can imagine. Um, so, like, how did you get started in gaming in the first place, and like in both working in gaming, but also how did you start gaming?
Yeah, I would say that has to go all the way back to like when I first played video games, I guess. And the first system that me and my brother ever owned was an NES, original Nintendo Entertainment Center, and we had lots of like learning games on it because my mom got it for us. It was funny. My dad was the one that actually played video games. My parents split up when I was like 2, so this is all interconnected. But she got us that, and there were like Sesame Street games and things like that, which were fun. I mean, we were kids, and
Yeah,
it was flashy, and you know, even learned something from it. But the one that really, or the two that really captivated us were Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, and Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. And so I I think that like that's the first thing that made me a gamer. I think, and then of course like we were huge Sonic the Hedgehog fans growing up and everything we could get our hands on. But uh, we saved up. I remember this is a story my dad likes to tell a lot. Was we asked for a Nintendo 64, and our dad said, "Yeah, if you save up the money, we can get a Nintendo 64." Because we weren't like rich or anything, and like we're
yeah,
uh, again parents split up, so funds are split and paying for 2 different places and all that. But um, so me and my brother, uh, our dad had already to teach us about saving every day for like lunch money at school. He would give us more than we needed for lunch, And he's like, you can spend that on whatever you want. If there's something extra you want, if like snacks, candy, whatever. Anytime we go to the store, actually, he started with that. Anytime when we were really little, when we go to the store, we'd ask if we'd get like, there are these little like gumball type machines, but some have toys, and we'd ask for a quarter to do that. And he's like, okay, you can have a quarter and get one of those now, or you can have a quarter and you can keep it and save it.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing he said, if you save up the money for the Nintendo 64, then we can get one. And he didn't really expect us to do it, but we buckled down and quickly saved up half of the money. And then he was like, all right, you know what? Yeah, let's go. Let's just go get it then. And so
Nice.
he did pay for the whole thing because it was all his money. But
Yeah.
but we earned it in that way. We like earned
Yeah.
our first game
That's cool.
system. And so, of course, the first thing that we got to pick out a game, which was Yoshi's Story, and then he picked out Hexen, which is great. I love Hexen. It's like a medieval Doom kind of game. But
that was more Dad's game then.
that was we were not expected to play that one. We ended up playing it sooner than my mom would have liked. She actually
I can imagine.
She ended up selling it. She got rid of it. When we
Oh,
got the
really?
GameCube at Dad's, so we moved the N64 to Mom's, and she threw out Hexen. So we were pretty bummed about that. But then he surprised us with Ocarina of Time. And we had played, in between them, we had played A Link to the Past at our cousin's house because they had a Super Nintendo, and so we'd go there to play. But yeah, so Ocarina of Time and Yoshi's Story were our first like games on that then, and definitely fell in love with Ocarina of Time. Like if we were already Zelda fans, but that just like tenfold.
I mean, I'm not even. I wouldn't say I'm a Zelda fan. I've played a little bit of Zelda games in the past, and like they are objectively good games. But like even I love Ocarina of Time, and I'm not. I didn't even have a Nintendo.
Okay.
So like I played it a few times at friends' houses, but yeah, Ocarina of Time is one of those that is just even the people who didn't even own it themselves love it. Like, I don't think you can not love Ocarina of Time if you played it.
It's so good. I mean, I think it's one of the best games ever made, in my opinion. Like there's obviously like technological constraints on how it was built back then. There's things that we can do now that are greater, but for the resources they had available, it was peak.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game, but I like darker stuff. If anyone, I didn't show it on this one yet, but this book, Ages of the Elements. If anyone reads this or anything else I write, I get dark. But so and I love Majora's Mask. It's so dark and it's not just punishingly dark and unnecessary, like trauma or something, but it's just like very real and emotional, and there are consequences, which is great. But so Zelda is like I would credit Zelda to being what got me into gaming. And you know what's funny is my mom, because me and my brother said we're gonna make video games when we grow up. Like that's what we want to do. We're gonna make video games. And my mom didn't think that was a real job, so she definitely discouraged it. But she did say, because we'd have like the guidebooks, and we didn't need the guidebooks, we would get them just because it's more like you can look at the pictures, and it was like an art collection thing. And she's like, well, you could write those when you grow up, like that's a job. You could write the guidebooks. And I was like, I'm not gonna be a writer. Yeah, I think about that a lot now.
Fast forward a couple years. Oh, hang on.
Yeah. Fun other fact about writing, actually, side tangent. I failed every writing assessment. Anyone who thinks they're a bad writer, I failed every writing assessment that I ever took until the big bad like standardized test that we have here in Washington called the WASL. And then I got some simple advice and like flipped a switch in my brain, and I exceeded standard on that, and now I'm a writer. So
yeah, they have it. Like your initial struggles in life don't define you. That's simple as that.
Absolutely. But yeah, so Zelda is what got me into the gaming industry, because my first gig in the gaming industry was writing walkthroughs for Zelda universe. So my mom apparently knew something, but um, I got to write walkthroughs for my first one was Phantom Hourglass, and then it's funny. I actually did started writing those on my phone and then transferred them to a laptop. It was an interesting. But then I wrote a full walkthrough for Ocarina of Time. Did one side quest for Majora's Mask when the 3DS version came out, and because one of the for some of the quests are different, placements are different, and so so I wrote a walkthrough for that. I almost got to write the full walkthrough for that one, but someone else got it. And then I did a few chapters of the Twilight Princess for Twilight Princess HD. Less stuff was different in that, but again, there were differences. And then the last thing I did there was did a handful of walkthroughs for the shrines for Breath of the Wild.
Cool. But then how did you go from then writing walkthroughs to ending up with making making touch controls for Xcloud? That's
a bit of a jump.
Quite a leap.
Yeah. It's actually has kind of a direct tie too, but I had hoped that I was a little bit afraid. A writer once told me that not to write anything non-creative because it would stop you from getting to write creatively, and so I almost turned down the job at Zelda Universe because of that. But I ultimately decided it's the gaming industry. I'm going to do it. It'll be a foothold. But several years went by and I didn't feel like I was really getting closer. I appeared on one show. There's a channel on Twitch called Hyper RPG, and I got to go on their Trivia Hops game, and I was in full Link cosplay, and
nice.
And my team almost won the trivia game, but we can talk about that more later. But it basically is the Zelda Universe thing didn't seem to be like getting me as much ahead as I thought, and so I started writing a book. And I just write my own stories that based on a world me and my twin brother had come up with as kids. And I just told myself I'm going to write a chapter every 2 weeks, and I'm going to post it online for free for people to read on Wattpad.com. And I had met an editor at a publishing company who said that she would try to help me get a sequel or something published if I did that. So that was my goal. I was going to write this book, and I got about 10 chapters in, and that's when I met my wife. So that slowed things down. Was taking longer on the last chapter, and then I had a fateful encounter. My wife and I got invited to a Christmas haunted house, which I'd never heard of. It sounded strange. Cool. Yeah, it's Krampus themed. So we went out to this Christmas haunted house, and there's a booth there with this guy selling board games and leatherwork costumes that he's handmade and all of this stuff. And so we're checking out his dice and his board games and stuff, and my friend's talking to him, and he's telling them, yeah, we're working on our first video game. And I've been working on a game with my friends, just garage dev team project, and my friends are like, Joey, video game, very, very subtly. So I come over and we talk, and I mean, probably the best, luckiest or best move that I've made, decided to join his team. I did an audition, a written audition. So I was kind of like, I wanted to finish my book, but I thought it's a writing job at a game company. So yeah. I think the people reading my book will understand if I, tie a loose knot on it. And so I focused on that audition, and I got the job, and I was the first writer brought onto the team. And I helped grow the team then. I brought on more artists and more writers from groups I knew, and then I was quickly, it was like a couple of months in or something, I was promoted to lead writer slash game designer and project manager. So this was suddenly, and I'd always been like, my dad always said I was a leader. He would say that like as kids, like different kids would want to do different things, and I would just go do what made me happy. And soon enough, even if everyone else wanted to do something else, soon enough everyone else would be doing what I wanted to do because of how
Yeah.
much fun I made it look. And that's also I didn't need to convince anybody else to do. I mean, I'm extroverted. I want people to be around me, but I think I'm very enthusiastic about what I'm doing, and I make it more fun. My brother and I have been accused of being sales representatives when we're out, like just talking about things that we like, but covert sales reps. But but this was my first official leadership role, uh, and actually I turned down a manager position before this, but it was the first one that I actually took,
Yeah.
um, and I uh, stayed there for a little over 4 years, 4.5 years, um, writing. First, like we were focusing on the board game and the video game, and the video game hit lots of twists and turns. So I can't say for sure even where that's at. The board game would be released if it wasn't for COVID. That derailed the board game
See
pretty
that.
severely. We were in the playtesting stage, and um, yeah, definitely that crippled it. But
And as someone, I
um,
mean, me and a friend and his brother, we've been like, we were before, like a year ago, we were working on a board game as well, and like I know, like we did it quite, like we didn't get that far, so but I can like
mhm,
I can respect how much work goes into making a board game. Like
mhm.
it's a
Yeah,
lot of
the
work.
pieces, the art, besides the plan, like
Yeah, and
it's a
ours was a
multi.
digital. We didn't have to bother with that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and still took ages just getting the
Hmm.
mechanics right.
Yep.
So yeah, I can totally respect that it took a long time. So
And
too
ours,
bad. Do you think it will be like is it like is it done or it's not gonna happen, or do you think it
I
will
I
see the light of
heard
day at some point?
I heard that things were getting moving with it again. I hope
Cool.
that's true.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I hate to see
it's a
that
really
progress
fun
wise.
game, and it's a. I should have brought this up when with Silas. It has a deck building element to it. So you have cards,
Oh,
and you move across the
fun.
board, and it's an open world. So it feels a lot like D&D, but you have a map, like a dedicated
Cool.
map, and the map changes. So everyone who play, it's called a Living Legacy board game, and everyone's map will end up different.
Cool.
When you like explore spaces, uh, the like aspects to it are a bit randomized, and you can choose certain things that affect parts of the world. So that's pretty
Sounds
cool.
like a game that my gaming group would love. So I
Yeah,
hope, yeah, I hope it gets made for real because I think I might be in the target audience for that.
nice.
Um,
Yeah, I will definitely let you know.
yeah.
Um,
Then how did you go
and then
from that studio to Xcloud then? That's
yeah, so I ended up I got a part-time job during that at a certain point during COVID or 2021 doing narrative design at another game company called Morphodox, and then and that one the game is supposed to release next year. So that was cool. Like working on like not to put down attention span, but like attention span's game is a lot grander of a project, so there's a lot more
yeah.
problems to run into. So it was cool working on a project where the game scope, the game was the main focus. It wasn't this like multifaceted IP, and all of the attention got to put into like um, a very like
Focus
stringently
product, so to
scoped
speak. Yeah.
product. Yeah, and it's that's Morphodox. Um, Sorry, Ashes. The game is called Ashes, and it's a rhythm game. You play as a phoenix, and so
Cool.
I got to go really into depth with the worlds that you go to and
Yeah.
characters and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. And then so it was a bit of luck with Xbox. I and I always say this: luck. You have to prepare for the best. People say prepare, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You have to prepare for the best because I got lucky with Xbox, but I wouldn't have gotten it if I hadn't have done everything else that I had done so far. But we were moving into the house we're in now from the apartment that we were in.
Yep.
We moved to an apartment by ourselves when we had our kid, and um, we were finally at a place where we could afford to move into a house and have a yard for him and everything. And my neighbor at the apartments when we were moving, he worked at a recruiting company, and so he the whole time like, and he bought a copy of my book and was a big supporter. And the whole time he was like, yeah, if we ever get something, game design or whatever, like I'll let you know. And I'm like, sure, yeah, that's great. And um, wasn't sure, I if that was going to happen um, or depending on like what it was, if I wanted to leave what I was doing for it. And
Yeah.
um, he uh, he came up to me and when we were moving our last batch of stuff, and he was taking some stuff out to the garbage, and he was like, "Hey, did I tell you about a game design job that came up?" And I was like, "No, you didn't." Or he said a game tester job. He thought it was a game tester job. Um, he's more of like director or whatever. He's not like
Yeah.
handling the specifics, but he and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll look at it. Like, who knows? And I was doing other freelance work at the time too, so I was like,
Yeah. I
whatever.
mean,
Like,
you should never close a
it's
door.
X,
Like it's always.
yeah, and it's Xbox. Like, I get my foot in the door at Xbox. So,
Yeah.
um, so I looked at it and I was like, this isn't a game testing job. Like, they wanted the thing where he got that was they wanted game testing experience because of again like you have to like
Yeah.
fast learn these games. So being able to, my creative director called it critical gameplay, being able to play video games critically and quickly. And so, um, luckily, I had also through COVID, I'd done more playtesting. I'd gotten on like some new games and stuff, and done some playtesting, and so I got to put that on my resume. So while I had game design experience, and I'm sure that helped to a degree. Um, the Zelda universe guides were my biggest thing of, hey, look, I've like played and documented like these games.
Yeah.
Like I can for sure like critically
I go
analyze.
in depth. Like yeah.
Yeah. And so a skill that I had, but I never thought was going to be like important. And so I got the job, and I honestly, there was a moment where I thought I was gonna keep everything. Somehow I was gonna be a dad, a husband. I was gonna like go down in hours at both of these like game studios and still like
Yeah. And
have
then
my
do two
hands in
jobs.
it. And, yeah, I was like, yeah, maybe like I could just keep project managing attention span games, because like project management is not an hourly job. Like I'm sure someone technically gets paid
Yeah.
hourly for it, but it's just something you're always doing. And that had been my life for like 4.5 years. And so I was like, I didn't even know if I wanted to give that up, like checking my phone and talking to people about problems they were having and what was coming next and all of that. And so uh, I I did end up, obviously I quit my other freelance stuff, and I went down in hours at both Morphodox and Attention Span Games. And I was like, I'll give it a couple weeks and we'll see what the job is like. And which is like I was still getting permissions and everything. There wasn't a lot for me to do at Xbox other than learn stuff for
Yep.
the first couple weeks. But I pretty quickly realized, I was like, yeah, I can't do this. Like I can't juggle all of this.
You
And
know.
so I made the tough decision and quit Attention Span Games. And I kept Morphodox because it was um, it was sorry.
Kind of. Um,
It was sorry. Someone just asked me where the show was, basically, but on the screen, so I just copy and paste.
good.
So
Welcome
um,
to that person.
right. Uh, I stayed on at Morphodox, and part of that was just keeping the like my creative juices going. I had thought that if I quit completely, like let's say I'm just doing a few hours a week now at this like part time at this indie studio. If I quit, I'm gonna start my own project and do that for a few
Yeah,
hours a week. Like so why not do it why not continue on this team, which is a great team of people, and and you know it looks better on my resume to have that too than just I worked on
yeah,
my own
for sure.
projects. And so I um, I kept that for a while, and the sad thing there is I quit. I finally decided I can't do. I was just gonna do one thing, and I just quit um, the Morphodox job, and I was like I'm just gonna do XCloud and be just XCloud and family. And then like a couple weeks later got the layoff notice from Xbox.
Oh well.
So yeah,
Sometimes that's just bad luck. Sometimes we just have bad luck, I guess.
yeah, it's
But
all
yeah,
right.
so
More things are coming. So
yeah, exactly. It will. I'm sure it will all work out in the end.
yeah, so long
Um,
story long, that's how I got into touch
yeah,
control.
no, but like that's why I that's kind of why I wanted to do this with you because like, I mean I like there's more to a person than just what they're doing right now or just did.
Hmm.
So it's always fun to see like how did we get here. But yeah, so before we then move further, I know we mentioned this briefly before as well on the previous show, but um, Xbox Cloud Gaming, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Cloud Gaming, Xcloud, like what's your preferred mention of the thing and what's being used internally and why don't they use Xcloud externally? Do you know? Like obviously
I
Xcloud is
don't
the best
know.
one.
Right? I don't know why XCloud. I know XCloud is used externally a little bit, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it was in the
this is
beginning. First of all, it's a
that's
project Xcloud, and then I was like, now it's not a project anymore. Now it's a feature of this. I was
that
like, what?
that definitely I can't speak to why that is. Um, I think legally, and I don't know, but
Yeah,
um, I, uh, I
but you
honestly
agree
don't
that
know.
Xcloud is the best one, right? It's like,
Yeah, that's I always say xCloud,
yeah,
or
good.
almost
Then I'm not.
always say
It's not going to be then.
xCloud. I immediately thought that was a cool name. I thought it was interesting that they did the lowercase x, capital C, since it's xCloud because it's Xbox and it's
Yeah,
capital X for Xbox. So xCloud, it was kind of like a. I mean, if you
I
think of
suppose
like
it is where you like
cinematics
put the focus.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
suppose it's
focus,
where you, like the
focus.
focus is. Like the first, like with Xbox, obviously the focus is like this is the X box. Like it's a box, yes,
Hmm.
but it's like it's the Xbox console. Like that's the focus. Whereas
It's like where do you
in
put your
cloud, it's more like
emphasis?
yeah, it's more with Xcloud. It's more like yeah, this is a cloud thing that just happens to be based on Xbox, but like that's the side part in a way.
Hmm.
So I'm guessing that might be why they do it. But also, yeah, I feel the branding of Xcloud is a bit all over the place right now. So if anyone from the Xcloud team is watching this, go with Xcloud. Just go all out with Xcloud. That's my recommendation.
There are definitely
Um,
people internally that would generally say like cloud gaming or Xbox cloud gaming when we
yeah,
talked about it, but I think like we mostly called ourselves the X Cloud team. We
yeah,
were the my tight knit team that I got to talk to every day. Um, my work family for 9 months. We were the TAC Design Squad, which I liked that. That was our
yeah. That's a good
team
name.
nickname.
So, TAC would be then touch.
Touch
Some.
Augmentive Kit,
Oh, yeah,
which
that's a
is
cool name.
the tool that I use to make the touch controls.
Nice, that nice name. Um, but then, I mean, yeah, you mentioned you were a team. How many were in the team, and what was your role, like
The
specifically, both title and like your part? Like who
there
was
were
on the
lots
team?
of people on the team, like the xCloud team. In my like day to day, it was me. I and my title was game designer. Um, although sometimes my teammates have said like lead touch control designer, layout designer, or whatever,
Yeah,
depending on where you look.
interface. So,
I have some really nice LinkedIn recommendations from all three of them. So
nice.
however they refer to me there. But yeah, my technical title was game designer, and then I worked with Katie Calloway, who is our illustrator, and she created the assets for many of the touch control layouts. There were also the game developers and publishers would come to us with assets as well, and sometimes there'd be some like back and forth suggestions, things like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know there were, I think this maybe happened more before I came on the team, but I know there were times where Katie would make assets and then the devs would be like, oh, but what if it was like this? And they would do their version of it, which is always
I can
cool.
also imagine.
Inspire.
In general, like collaborative processes is usually results in a better end result anyway. So.
And it was so cool getting to work with like all those studios. I didn't get to talk to many directly. A lot of times it was through Vinit, who's a senior product manager. So Katie, then Vinit, and then Aaron Chavez was my direct supervisor. And he has the coolest job title. Name it was a senior creative technologist, which I just thought
that is objectively cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Rockstar job title on the team.
Definitely.
And so he was my mentor on the project. He taught me everything I know about designing touch controls. I think Xcloud in general is kind of, and the touch controls and all that was his baby. So
yeah, but then
nice to have it handed off.
Yeah, so like I mean, by now I would say you're probably one of the an expert on like designing touch interfaces for games at this point. I mean, you've done many at this point. Yeah.
If you're saying TAC expert, then yes, me out of 3 or 4 people in the world can do it.
Yeah, but not just for Xcloud in general. But let's say someone has a like we have this game, we want to put it on mobile. Like how should the interface work? Like UI. There's not a lot of people who are I don't think there are a lot of people who are like have done that many that you have now, especially in such a short time.
I have 70 plus shipped touch controls.
That's impressive in such a short time.
Yeah, and I still don't know. So if any employers or recruiters out there are watching this, but I was talking to a recruiter, and they often ask like, how many shipped games do you have? And I was like, well, I mean, I have a few like indie games that I can show you, but like I don't really know what terms to put that in for the Xcloud stuff, because saying 70 plus games shipped sounds a little bit ridiculous.
I mean, but at the same time, you have.
I did, yeah. Well, that's what she said. Like, she's like, I mean, you did, so that's, I don't know. That's what I'm gonna go with. But I'm like, I guess, and I have seen some people specify like shipped from conception to release, or like.
But then again, like you ship the interface from inception to release.
A lot of people will work on a game. They'll get freelance or contracted, and this is notoriously true for writers. Is they'll get brought on for a very small period of time. And I think audio designers too, for a long time, we get hit with this. You get brought on for a small portion of time, and I think the games suffer from it too. Is like the story gets written, and then game mechanics change, and things don't make as much sense. And unless you want to like freelance hire this writer or a new writer, like you're kind of just left with whoever to edit things and make it conform.
But it's also like
those people.
Go ahead.
I would say those people have like those games shipped, even if they just did a part.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
And I mean, it's like I love listening to Play Watch Listen and like hearing also Winter talk about how he does how he works with composing projects. Like he in my opinion, him doing the music on a game is basically a seal of some sort of quality for a lot of for me and a lot of other people as well. Like if he scored the game, it's almost guaranteed to be a good game. And someone told him to this in the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he said but I have shipped bad games too, because we wanted to make them bad, but just I mean, shit happens.
Hmm.
But like in general, because and I know that because he won't like he worked the way he works is he tries to be there from for as long as like as part of the team for as long as he can to collaboratively work on these
Hmm.
things. And I think, yeah, I think that is a really beneficial thing to do.
Absolutely.
But
Well,
yeah,
it's like
so
I can definitely say, like, I mean, I mean, I think this is true in any game with audio, but especially like Ashes with Morphodox is it's a rhythm game, and so like the art and the story have a lot to do with the music. Like the music isn't just
yeah,
written to
it's all tied
complement
together.
stuff. Yeah, it's very it's one thing, and so if you can't just make a puzzle piece and then leave and expect it to fit the other puzzle pieces that are made,
No, that
afterwards.
doesn't
Like
work.
we can try to make it around that, um, but yeah, ideally everyone in a collaborative process gets to be there from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be there 24 like 40
Yeah.
hours a week. I mean, you can be there like 1 hour every
Yeah.
month if that's what it takes. But I mean, you when the team needs you, it's good to
Yeah.
have you.
I still answer messages about Aegis of the Elements from old team members. Hey,
Yeah.
what was the sky supposed to be like here?
Oh yeah, it was this and this and this. Yeah.
Like, I know that. I've had talks with the owner. We're still friends, and he's
Yeah, yeah.
like, he's like, I still think you know the world better than anyone else, even me. So
Sounds like it. Yeah.
I lived and breathed it.
Yeah.
So
But then well, I was thinking, since you are such an expert of that, like, is there anything, like, what have you learned about designing UIs for touch? Would you say like anything, any takeaways like
definitely
this?
a strong focus on ergonomics. I would say what's how our thumbs move. And one thing I noticed about that is, and so like you can't make it for everyone because some people are gonna play in different ways. Like
It is what it
if you
is.
play while you're standing or leaning against a wall, like your elbows are gonna be more in.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in a chair, I mean, some people might. I think I tend to sit in still more when I sit in a chair. But if you sit in a chair that with arms on the side and your arms are going to be out a little bit more, and that moves your thumb range in different ways. And so I don't know uh, all of the different ways it could be, but I know Xbox and Xcloud have done their own studies on how most people position their hands, and other people have done studies, and so that's what we base it off of was the most common um, handheld positions, and so I tried to adjust to that, but um, so yeah, I guess I learned like where are the best like three best places to put controls if you can put them there, which and that people's what people's design space is going to decide that. Like we had specific slots that we could use. So even if we thought, oh, it'd be perfect if this button was over here, it's not necessarily an option. But
Yeah.
um, and we would get people that would ask that all the time. Like when like discussing stuff with developers, they'd be like, well, can we put this here to match the UI? And I think that the correct answer to that is yes with cloud awareness. Um,
Yeah.
you can do that, but with basic tac, we can get close, but depending on the size screen that someone's playing on, that's going to be different. Um, and again, based on what slots we have available, we'll decide how close we can get to that.
Yeah.
Um, doing
I
things
mean,
like putting joysticks, like 'cause I could put extra joysticks on it. I don't know if you played the ground. You played the grounded layout,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, I've played all of
Like
them.
7 or 8
I mean,
joysticks.
5 to 10 minutes each on average, but still, I've played all of them.
Yeah. But so we didn't do a lot of that, like the just a joystick for every button. But there were things like Ninja Gaiden, um, where the some of the controls moved because we decided to make them joysticks, uh, and they can't be in some positions they're too close to the edge of the screen on certain devices, and you don't want
Yeah,
players running your hand
that
off the
doesn't work.
screen.
Yeah.
So um, and so then we have to decide, okay, well, maybe this was the best place for the position for that button, but now it's not the best position for that button. So what's the alternate
The
best
second, yeah,
thing?
what's the
What can
second
it
best one?
swap with? And what, yeah, what's the second best for it? And what are, if we're swapping it with something, that thing is also okay here. We're not, because everything is dynamic. Everything correlates, like A to B, B to X, um, X to A, X to Y.
Yeah,
So you
because
got to think.
and especially in since you're like if you're building a game um, for mobile specifically, I mean you can just say like push the button that looks like this, whereas for a lot of these games it's like press the A button, and like the A we instinctively know this is where the A button is on a normal controller, but then on
Mhm.
a touch controller it can be somewhere else. So, I mean I'm guessing that's
Yep.
also something you take into consideration a lot.
And that was another thing we did have focus towards was familiarity. Familiarity is important. I know I was particularly not a strong proponent of the inner diamond. So some of the games that you play have, and ones hopefully the ones that we did choose to do it with, they're it's the best option. Particularly games that have a lot of buttons and aren't fast action paced games. You can have A, B, Y, X all kind of centered there um,
Yeah.
on the right hand side, and that's going to be the most familiar. But they're also very close to each other, and it's even if it's not a fast action game, it's always cumbersome to accidentally hit the wrong button to back out of a menu instead of picking the item or to
Yes, very
um,
much.
whatever it is. And so uh, the main thing that we try to do was um, the what we refer to as the ergo diamond, and that's so ABYX in an ergonomic slant basically, and um, and then uh, I would say popularized the inverted ergo diamond, which is A and B on the top and then X and Y on the bottom. Uh,
Yeah, that makes sense because
um,
your thumbs automatically go to the top.
Yep,
Or
and
is
and A
center
is
half.
so often the most prominent button that you push, and so
Yeah.
having it at the bottom works for lots of games, um, and but if you're mostly pressing A in the game, then it's nice to have it in the middle. And some games really didn't um, use X as much or whatever it is. So
Yeah. But do you feel like now, like with the experience you now have designing all these overlays, like, do you think you could bring with you a lot of that experience into maybe doing something like working with the UI for a mobile title, for example, like a mobile direct to mobile thing, for
mhm,
example? Do you think
absolutely.
that would? Yeah.
Yep, and I
Uh,
think even for narrative design and so I'd say the main focus is besides making good touch controls, the main things to think about with because so like Katie and I would design art assets together. She created them. I'm not an artist in that way, but we would we would have lots of discussions on them between us and with the rest of the team. And one of the important factors to always consider is uh, what's what are we covering up? Like even though we can do the opacity, like what is being covered up, and can we is it worth it to mitigate that? And some of the games that we worked on have really like great cutscenes, and uh, that a lot of people put a lot of work into, and you don't want to cover up key parts of that. So I mean, one basic photography thing is knowing just that if it's that kind of game, don't try to take the rule of thirds and don't use it. Basically, for the touch controls, like don't let the touch controls be in the. Do you know what the rule of thirds is?
yeah. The
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So yeah, like don't cover those lines with touch controls basically because you can assume that whoever was designing the cinematics was using those for important focus points, but also possible like sub notes like Easter eggs and hints and things like that. And it's one thing to not see someone's facial expression when they have a realization and like you miss that emotion. that's going to annoy a player, but it's also really disappointing if they didn't get the chance to see a hint at something. So then when it
Yeah,
comes back later, it's not as impactful.
yeah, definitely.
So it's
Um,
yeah, it's behind the scenes, but that was a big focus of what we did. And then the only thing above that, and of course just touch controls working well, is just like I guess it goes in with touch controls working well as action sequences, combat and platforming. Like you don't want players messing up on that. You want that to be
yeah,
as
no, definitely.
um, easy to easy to remember. And again, that goes into familiarity and is easy to again switch between the right buttons
Yeah.
to accomplish.
Uh, then I mean, just out of curiosity, because I mean, my first run-in with cloud gaming and touch controls was when Stadia announced support for direct touch on a few titles. Specifically, I think the first one I played on was Humankind, the strategy game they built, and then over at Amplitude, but then also I think this indie game called the 100 Days, which is, I mean, it's a game about winemaking. What's it called? Um, but it's both of those have direct touch support, and I know there are some games that have direct touch support as well. For example, this very
Hmm. Yeah,
this one that
so
was up on Xcloud, this one that was up for nominations for a Game Awards nomination, where it's like choose with like basically choose your own like it's a story based sort of Life is Strange vibes.
hmm
I can try to remember the name. I'm blanking on it. Um, from no, not from Dawn, but yeah, something new. But like
yeah, Dusk or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, it had
um,
native touch.
yeah. So like did did you were you guys involved with when games got native touch at all, or was
Yes,
that like
I was
if
not
the
involved with
game
that one.
sales?
So much less. Like a lot of I don't know most of that, but I know there was some involvement. There were some where like the developers hadn't made native touch controls yet, and so it became a thing once they were talking to us, I believe. Um, but
But that was
I
mainly on
think
them to
other
do
than
then, I guess.
inspiring it, we well, I don't know. I want to say we didn't do it, but I heard I think that there was someone we had who knew how to make like touch controls in Unity, and that it was fairly like streamlined, and so maybe he did actually directly help some people implement touch controls.
Yeah.
I would hope if I
Um,
ever got to go back uh, to Xcloud, I would hope that I could do that with Unreal once I learn how to do that, and I would
yeah,
be happy to learn it
that would be
in
cool.
Unity as well. Um,
Because did you have did you try the touch interfaces of that Stadia had before they shut down?
no, I didn't. I actually never played Stadia.
Yeah, and now you never can.
I know.
No, yeah, it's a bummer. But yeah, because I mean, like I said, that was my first run-in with touch controls in general on cloud gaming, and it really opened up like, oh, this is you can do all of this. This is really cool. So, but do you think like it's like for me, direct touch is always preferred if it's applicable. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not for every game. Some games won't do well with touch support because with direct touch because it's not really a thing. But like, is it
Mhm.
what's your stance on direct touch support versus more controller overlays?
Yeah, uh, I think I would have to say ideally native touch is better. Like native touch, you have more options, more control. Um, you do lose some like again on the familiarity thing. Like someone has to learn your game. Like with especially, I guess the one place where I would say it is. I mean, you could think Outright Games is doing all these games so they could because like so Outright Games works with developers and the developers build these games. So if Outright Games was to say, okay, but we're going to always have this style of touch controls so that players know, um, like so that the kids are familiar with it, I think that would be a helpful thing
Yeah, that's probably more
for
helpful
them,
than having direct touch at the
um,
moment.
because um, kids especially, I think having that familiarity is really helpful. But native touch controls can be super intuitive, I think, if they're built well. And um, uh, but oh, sorry, so that was a big thing. Reason why a lot of developers that uh, don't do it, I think, is that if you don't plan for it in the beginning, it's a way bigger hassle to go
Yeah,
back and add
yeah, I can
touch
imagine.
controls. So
Uh,
it's something that you want to be thinking about from day one and
yeah,
planning to work with your game because they're important UI things. I mean, even um, you play like Genshin Impact, for instance, is is almost like the UI is built for touch. Like it almost makes less sense on the PlayStation because
yeah,
there's things that I don't know how to navigate to, and I've found them multiple times and I still don't remember. Like it gives a little ping up on the side. It's like Paimon's head with an exclamation point, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like I don't.
yeah.
But
And I think on
on the
PC
phone
is
I can
something
just
like
touch it.
yeah, and I
Or yeah,
think on PC
you
it's
could
like
click
you
on it.
hold the button to like basically unlock the mouse, and then you can like hit that thing. It's like this is so unintuitive compared to directors, but it's also, but yeah, but then again, I mean, with bringing game to mobile screens and touch, especially when bringing it to touch, because you then with direct touch, I suspect you also need to then adapt the UI a lot in a lot of cases for.
Mhm.
'Cause I mean, I know that humankind did that, but even that was like some of these buttons on like that's a big like it's a big 4X game. You know have all of these menus and buttons. Some of those buttons were bloody impossible to hit with touch controls, even though like
Mhm.
they specifically like change the UI for mobile devices. So
Yep.
I
No,
suppose that's also one
I've
of them.
played
Like
some.
if you want to do it right, you kind of need to spend that development cost on making sure that you have scalable UI too.
So, like you called me an expert, but I like I haven't dived into that
Yeah,
realm of native touch of like everything that you would need to consider. I know narratively what to consider again, like what not to block, and then what's ergonomic and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think like I would really have to, and I hope everyone who does build native touch games really think about what is intuitive to players. Like just because you know that this button up at the top takes you into a menu doesn't mean that everyone's going to get that if you don't have a tutorial system explaining it, which can work, or but especially like have it be intuitive, have things labeled if they're not,
yeah.
if you can't have
I think
iconography to explain it.
yeah, I think it was a friend of mine who a couple of years back said something along the lines of like you can whenever you write a guide or documentation or anything like that, like always assume that the person reading it is an absolute idiot
Hmm.
because like you need to set aside everything that you know. It's just throw it out the door because that's completely useless.
Yeah, you're not
Like you need to
explaining to
write.
someone who knows what you know.
Yeah, it's like there's this thought experiment that I've seen it. I've seen it done. I've had it done on me by from a UX designer, and I've had it. I've seen clips of people like parents doing it to their young kids. So like here, like I'm gonna like write me instructions on how to build a sandwich, like peanut butter jelly sandwich,
Hmm.
and then they follow those instructions to the letter. So it's like take the bread, take butter, put it on top of the bread, and then it's like, okay, so I take a loaf of bread and I put
I've
a
seen
stick
those.
of butter, put it on top, and I'm done. Like no,
Yep,
and like just
those are
keep
great.
iterating on that. And like I mean, I think the last video I saw like that was a couple of like three kids to being having to do that to their dad of people about a jelly sandwich, and I think 15 tries until they managed to get something that actually looked like a peanut butter jelly
Hmm.
sandwich, and even that was made completely weirdly.
Yep.
So it is one of those like instructions is really strange.
Yep.
Um,
I had a similar one when it's just a funny thing like that. I interviewed for a game testing position years ago, and they asked me to, all right, if you're gonna like test a game, you should be able to test other things. Like test this pen. How would you game test this
yeah,
pen? It's just an interesting experience.
yeah, I can imagine. Um, but then moving, like, um, let's
And
see where we're. I'm
hello,
just reading through
Aiden.
my notes here. Hello, Aiden. But yeah, so when um, uh, when you before you joined the Xcloud team, had you tried Xcloud yourself before,
No,
or cloud
oh
gaming, or
yeah,
cloud gaming at
I
all,
I
really?
had tried it. I had tried it on my Xbox. I hadn't tried it on my phone before that.
Yeah, but had you tried any other like cloud gaming, like from any other service as well, or?
No, I had played mobile games, but no, other than XCloud on the Xbox, which is handy, not having like being like, oh, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have to download this game and I can just stream it. Was really
Yeah, and
cool.
it works. I mean, I'm one of those weird ones. I don't even have an Xbox, and I have Game Pass subscriptions
Hmm.
because I play it on my PC or on my phone, and on my TV. Although it's side loaded, so it works kind of like the menus are horrible to navigate. But once you get into a game, it's decent. Like on a just on an Android TV, smart TV, like
Hmm.
built-in Android TV. It's so nice just having everything on there. Like launch the app, pick whatever you want, and you're done.
Absolutely.
Um,
I think that,
so
and I had mentioned this, I think, uh, near the end of the last video, but um, one of the things I realized while working at xCloud, because I'm like very passionate about storytelling. We're all talking about story-driven games and that sort of thing, and that's definitely like where my heart is in game design. Uh, but realizing like what this brings to the world and to gamers who like you don't have an Xbox. I don't know how much an Xbox costs there, but we would get feedback from people who would say like they would need like two full-time jobs to be able to buy an Xbox instead of then buying anything else. Like it's just
yeah.
getting an Xbox where they lived is impossible, whereas they can pay, $15 a month or whatever to have xCloud and have all these game libraries and play them on their phone. And so the accessibility worldwide for gamers who like, not to say they couldn't be gamers because there are other mobile games, but gamers who wouldn't get to play like these kinds of games like,
Yeah,
Assassin's
like
Creed
if it
and
wasn't for Hogwarts
Halo.
Legacy launching on Boostroid, I would not have been able to play Hogwarts Legacy at all because I don't have
What is Boosteroid?
Boostroid is another like PC ish like PC in the
Okay.
cloud ish service. So just like the GeForce Now, it's like one of those where you own the game, you buy the game on Steam or Epic or something like that, and then you launch it through their servers, and then it's streamed from
Okay.
their service to your. So it's a PC version, just straight up. But then,
Yeah.
of course, you can play that. Like if a game has controller support, then you can play it with. Like my favorite, like one of my favorite ways of game these days is using like a Razer Kishi, which is like this device.
Okay.
And you just plug my phone in here, and I have like it's like a
Yep.
Switch, and then you have like it's like having a small Switch, and you can play like Hogwarts Legacy in with like a maximum graphics on it, or
That's awesome.
Marvel's Midnight Suns with ray tracing. It's like on a phone wherever I am.
Yep.
I love just whenever I rarely go into the office, but whenever I do go into the office, like finding someone who seems like who I know is interested in games but haven't seen cloud gaming yet, and I'm like, hey dude, check this
Hmm.
out. Like
Yep.
like try this out, and everyone's like, but it feels like just like at home. Like yeah, it works. Cloud works.
I know you'd expect it to like bog down the phone and yeah,
Yeah, it's like
it's
either bogged
it's
on the
pretty
phone or
easy.
you expect it to be, and then when it's like, oh, it's streamed, and like, oh, so there's latency. Like, no, there isn't. It's like it works.
Hmm.
And I know, I mean, I live in Sweden, in Stockholm, especially like where I live, we have like we're one of the best connected places in the world. I mean, my 5G speeds on my phone in central Stockholm is like some can go up to I think the highest speeds I've seen is 1.5 gigabits per second in like on a phone, which is like who needs that first of all,
Yeah.
but also like that
Yeah, give
means
us some.
cloud gaming works perfectly.
Yeah, that's
um,
awesome.
so yeah, it's like I
The
mean
cool thing with xCloud though, because and this definitely happened to me while I was working on things, is if it crashes, if you get disconnected, like complete, like tossed out, it will like it notifies the server basically
yeah,
and
but like
holds
keep
the
it,
game.
yeah, hold it for a couple of
And so
minutes and
if
then
you
you just
log back in within the next few minutes, you'll be right where you were.
yeah, and I love that.
And it's, again, that's so weird in a game like again, I keep bringing up Assassin's Creed, but it's just it. I loved Assassin's Creed Origins. I love ancient Egyptian stuff and all of that. But so having an open world like that, that is like the epitome of save often, and being able
Yeah,
like playing and having the game crash and then open it back up and be right where you were standing when it crashed is kind of a cool experience.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I played the first hour of Hogwarts Legacy just last weekend on the commuter train back from a board game night. Like, I was sitting on the train, and now I
Yep,
have no connection for 5 minutes, but that's perfect fine. And then the connection came back, and I was like, yep, and I'm still here. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Cloud has really changed the way not only the way I game, but also like the way I think about gaming. I feel like at this point.
Hmm.
But like, well, so what are your then overall thoughts on cloud gaming going forward then in your life? Like when,
I mean, I think I certainly hope it just grows from here. It um, it seems like the next logical step to me. Again, like being aware of like world constraints because we can focus on um, making bigger, badder games for PC and consoles, but uh, but those people like we all have access to those games already, and so I don't know. I think that like developers, especially of the technology, ask themselves, is it more important to further impress, give more to the people who already have some, or expand the reach of what is to more people and more
yeah,
places?
and I mean
For me,
I'm one of
that's
those
an
people
easy
who are
answer.
yeah, and I'm one of those people who are I mean since I first saw that initial Stadia announcement, and I had used cloud gaming even before that as well, but like that's announcement that they did when they showed off. Like talked about how their tech worked, and I was like, oh, the amount of doors this could open for, like it felt like it felt like the next leap in gaming. I mean, we had like
Mhm.
when we went from 2D to 3D, that was a big leap.
Yeah.
Changed opened so many doors, changed so many things in the industry, and it feels like. I mean, obviously, cloud like Stadia is living proof that it maybe we're not really ready for it yet globally,
Hmm.
or like the community isn't ready and for it yet. But I
Yep.
think we are like cloud is to me at least undeniably that next leap. Uh,
Yep.
and I think
I
it
think
was
I think with
Jade Raymond from
Stadia,
Havens. No, go ahead.
huh?
Go,
With
go ahead.
Stadia and with like I mean with me getting laid off from XCloud, like it certainly being this close to it feels like a step backwards, but sometimes there is on a forward movement. Sometimes there's a step back and then you push forward again. So
Yeah,
uh, I think it'll push forward. I think that there's enough people that have been reached by it. Like they're not just going to be quiet and go, oh, I guess we don't get that anymore, or oh, I guess this is where that ends. Like those people are going to be hungry for more, and I
yeah, and I
think
mean
that
even in the
I think
Stadia
that's going to
community
push.
when Stadia shut down, there were so many people who were like, "All right, I guess I'm done with gaming then." And
Hmm.
then because for one reason or another, then XCloud or GeForce Now or others cloud streaming solutions that is out there wasn't like viable for some reason, one reason or another.
Hmm.
Like if they didn't have another option to go to, then it was like yeah, it wasn't they're now gonna get a PlayStation or an Xbox. It was like
Hmm.
then I'm not gaming. Simple as that. And so I mean, cloud really opens up not only a lot of more people, but to me, what really entices me about it is also like the way I think Jade Raymond said it in an interview. I think after she had left Stadia actually, um, that like one of the things that they were working on now Haven series is like how do we as developers work with like now that we don't, for example, like I mean we don't when we don't have a constraint of yeah we need to keep the assets like the size of the game below 50 gigabytes for example. Now that we can say we now like this game takes up 1.2 terabytes of storage because it's all
Hmm.
stored on data centers and those assets are shared between like all of these instances. Like how does that change the way we work? They have realized it changes everything, but it
Hmm.
also opens up a lot of things. Like we can suddenly do really cool things with that. So yeah, I'm excited to see like obviously cloud native games is even further away than it like it felt
Yeah.
like they were closer before Stadia shut down the internal studios, and then especially now that they've shut down entirely. I know that I've heard that I think Kim Swift has a team over at Xbox doing looking into cloud native. I know that is doing it for PlayStation. Ubisoft has their Ubisoft Scalar thing, whatever that is. We don't really know yet. But it feels like cloud native games is like going to be the real next leap um, for gaming, which is I'm
You
excited
think
about. And that might
exclusively
take 10 years.
cloud native or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like games that can only work be run in the cloud, like because you have like maybe like you have 5 terabytes of assets because that are being shared. You have
Oh,
you're
like you
doing
couldn't
server
possibly
side
download
physics, yeah,
this.
yeah, they're like
Or
server side physics or simulations.
before that, what would probably happen is you do download the base game, but you have to be connected to the cloud
Yeah,
for the
so
rest
sort of
of it.
like
So
Flight Simulator,
yeah,
just with
yep.
weather data. Where I know that, and I know that Star Citizen, because they have this tech that they're working on because they seem to do everything R&D, which is why it's taking so long. But like they have this thing where they try to simulate the economy of the entire galaxy that's in the game. So like if one player just like shoots down a mining ship in this area, then that reduces the flow of iron into
That's
this system,
cool.
which like it affects it. So they're running all of this on a server, like simulating it, but just with like very simple entities, and then that the game can pull like what's the like I'm heading into this area. What's happening here economy wise? And they can be like, oh, yeah, it's like this, and then all right, this character is now then switches to a pirate and then attacks this player. And then so like they
Hmm.
can create dynamic
You
events
could,
based on like what's happening in the world,
yeah, you could
and like
influence
that
it on
only
like
works using a server,
yeah.
cloud server, because it has to be able to scale up and down to such a sense.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where cloud takes us because I've been working with like business to business software service things, not game related at all, for the last couple of years. And like I remember like my 2 jobs ago, I was working in a place that switched from having an uh, like on-prem solution to building a cloud-based backend, and like like I've seen that step, and I mean it was a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, it took them
Hmm.
2 years and 2 years to reach some sort of minimum viable product, but still, and I think it will keep up with like 50 developers. But what they achieved in the end is like it's miles ahead of what was even possible before. So I
Hmm.
look forward to seeing games take that journey, but it will be like another 10 years at least
Yeah, I guess it's
before we see
funny.
that.
I don't really think about other things with cloud like Google Drive and stuff. I like this entire book was written on Google Drive
Yeah,
between people because it's such a collaborative thing. Like we can all be in one Word document at the same time. And like I've had it's so funny. I've had like live conversations with people in text. Like if it's an instant messenger in a Google Doc before. And
yeah,
uh,
which is
yeah, such
so
a
cool though. I mean, that wasn't possible 10 years ago. It feels like.
mhm.
Um, then switching back over to over to you, Don. How did you choose which games got touch overlays and which one didn't?
Um, at base, that wasn't my decision. I would get a list, and or how specific I can go into this process,
Yeah,
but
no,
I would get a list of all the games that we wanted, all the games coming to Game Pass, basically, and it was that list would get whittled down by different people based on constraints and possibilities
yeah, I'm guessing like
things like that.
these go into Jira tickets, and then we see which ones actually get made.
I will say, and because if there are developers listening, I would want developers to know this is that there are games that um, there are games that I did that didn't have much playability, but some amount of like there's tons of games on Game Pass and there's only so much time, and
Okay,
I literally I was only there from for part of a year, so I could only do so many of the games, even if I didn't know it that whole time. Um, and so some amount of it did have to do with like, oh, this game might maybe isn't the best. Like how how many people are playing it? Oh, it's not being played that much. Okay, let's focus on other, like, we're going to focus on the games people are playing right now, so that,
Yeah.
especially multiplayer ones, so people can keep playing them. But if a developer was really interested in it, that meant something to us, especially
Yeah.
if they were interested enough to do like cloud aware work themselves. But just just that passion and interest from them, if they're really excited about it. There were games where I like ran into some nasty bugs with it, and so there are some games that I would decline because I'm like, this game doesn't work that well for touch, like you're saying, first person.
Yeah.
Well,
First person
a lot
shooters
of
don't
first
work
person
well at all.
shooters get declined because they they don't have touchpad support, and they just don't. Yeah, they it players would have a bad time trying to play them with tact controls.
Yeah.
And
And I can imagine it being a case of like if you guys are like are choosing between like a game like God of War, Gears of War 5 versus like a small indie title that barely anyone plays, where even though I'm sure that at some point you were able to quite quickly say this is going to be a really good implementation and this is going to be an okay implementation,
mhm,
based on like your previous experiences. If the other one has like 100 times the more players, and I see that why that one maybe got priority, and then the other one might just never have
mhm,
gotten there. I mean, I know how Jira's backlogs used to work. It works.
yeah,
They get big. They always get bigger and bigger, not smaller and smaller.
yeah,
So I can imagine it was a similar case for you guys.
yeah. And when, uh, but again, like so, some games that didn't necessarily work well, like there's a big problem, like a bug or something. When the developers were really involved in it, like we also made that extra effort to make it work. Because I can't say there's always a solution, but if there is a solution, we would find it.
Yeah,
Whereas if developers didn't care, and especially then if not a lot of people are playing it, but well, even if a lot of people are playing it, if the developers don't care about touch, and like we don't think we can make it work well, then we're not going to ruin people's experience by telling them to try it on touch.
yeah, yeah. It makes sense.
So it
Um,
it was always there was an individual decision with each game, but
Yeah. So then, what would your recommendations be for developers who want to see their games that are on Game Pass or coming to Game Pass to get touch support? But like, is there
email
anything that
me.
they can do in advance to like ease the process?
Uh, you could definitely, even though Xcloud isn't building touch controls anymore, you can definitely talk to them about Cloud Aware. Um,
Yeah.
Cloud Aware will make your game better with touch controls. Um, um, you can obviously, I would like you to reach out to me, but you can learn to build them as well. Um, no one knows your game better than you. Um, but if you're starting your game and you still don't want to put in the effort uh, for touch controls, um, I would learn. But so if you're starting a game and you know you're going to get it on, it's going to be on XCloud and it's going to have TAC controls on it. I guess I would look into TAC controls and see, pay attention to where button placements are, and take that into
Yeah.
account for your narrative design and your
Yeah. And I
uh,
can imagine the earlier you do that, the better.
yeah,
Get right.
but and that's pretty in depth, but
Yeah. But then I'll have a follow up question to that then. Um, well, I try to remember that one. What would you say was the best the implementation that you built that you felt worked the best and is most proud of?
hmm, that is a tough one. Probably, I mean, probably one of the ones towards the end. I think uh, Ghost Song is definitely up there. It's kind of the perfect Metroidvania. Um, it's again, it had the inverted ergo diamond. Um, so
Yeah.
so it has the familiarity and the ease of like between pressing things, but it also has some dynamic things like the one of the things I didn't use too often, which is a pull action, is if you hold down the Y button and swipe, you'll jump, which is a really cool thing because otherwise in the game there's only one power that does it, but there's a charge shot like Metroid because the game is very similar to
Yeah.
it's Metroidvania, and so if you're holding down the Y button with like on touch controls, you can't like you'd have to claw to hit the A button at the same time. So with that swipe action, you can have a charge shot and swipe and jump and then like time your shot, release the Y button and fire, or keep swiping and keep jumping and platforming while you hold that charge shot, waiting for an enemy to jump out at you. So I was really happy with that one. Um, I think I mean another one was uh, for complexity's sake, I would say Assassin's Creed. I mean, it was just a pleasure to work with Ubisoft too, but and see how excited they were about the whole thing. But having a game with that many buttons, and it's something other people on the team mentioned, was just like that game has a lot of buttons to press,
Yeah,
and
like the first time
so
I loaded it up, I was like, "This is never gonna work." Was my first impression. Then as the cuts, each cuts in place, and it's like as soon as I got into the game, I was like, "I don't know, no, this is actually works quite well." Like
yep.
it's not a like I probably wouldn't play the entire game like that, but I can definitely see going in for, some finishing up that side activity that you were like
And it's a
playing on your
nice game
console
for
playing like yeah
collectibles. Like, yeah, you
yeah
can
yeah
log on and be like, oh, I'm gonna go take out this fort. Like maybe I'm not gonna go do the storyline, but
Yeah, and
um,
like oh, I'm slightly over leveled for this now. Perfect. I'll just do it on my on the phone on the way to work
yeah.
or on my lunch break at work. Yeah, totally.
And that is one where I would say like use the opacity slider. Like you want to
Yeah,
see things. So
definitely. It's a gorgeous
I guess
series.
again another Ubisoft one with just to go along like because this paved the way to those was um, Phoenix Rising. I know we got some really cool art assets for that, and
Yeah,
um,
that overlay is gorgeous.
yep.
Might be my favorite visual overlay in terms of visuals.
Mhm.
I haven't
And
tried them all.
and it was such an interesting one to go on. Like it was easy at first, like working on it. I was like, okay, it's combat. I got to focus on the combat. But then I realized like you can change the difficulty on this game. So you can't change the difficulty on the platforming. And honestly,
No,
the platforming is the most difficult part of the game. Like, I mean, I
yeah,
guess maybe if you turn the combat up all the way, but you can get stronger, you can get more powers. But the platforming and the puzzles are like are just designed around the controls. Um, so that's ultimately what I geared them towards was,
yeah.
or we geared them towards was uh, focusing on the for the puzzle solving while still optimizing the combat as much, of course.
Yeah.
But,
Then, how long how much work was it to build a single like from start to finish on each game then? Like was it in terms of hours? Like would you say like is it 40 hours or 100 hours or even less probably?
it was definitely different for every game because some games
Yeah,
aren't
yeah,
like
of course.
they're indie, and the just the learning factor. Like there are games where I mean, and lots of devs would send us over what their controls were and what they changed, but again, some had more interest than others. Some would give us a elaborate list, and some wouldn't. Um, and um, there definitely were times. This was with publishers, so like a publisher doesn't necessarily know the controls, so they send us some kind of list, but then like I'm not going to say names, but there was a publisher who asked us what a button did. So like
Oh,
so there's always like and to go with that it's like playtesting never ends. Like when after you release a game, players are going to come and tell you, "Hey, this doesn't work."
yeah,
So it's just doing our due diligence, playing through the game. So long games took longer, whereas short games or games that had obvious repetitive loops were easier. Like Vampire Survivors was like the simplest layout. Uh, that
Yeah,
I did.
it's a very simple game. So yeah,
Yep. And yeah, I
but
was really excited to get to do that one.
was that one that
Um,
you play tested maybe a little bit more than the others just because the game is so good, or?
I I may have had a Vampire Survivors addiction for a little while there.
Yeah, me
I think
too.
that
Me
was
too.
one of my last games that I did, and it was really cool because the fans really blew up about it, and
Yeah,
um, it's something that they asked for and then got, and so it was like they were a part of it kind of thing, which was really cool
cool.
too.
Yeah,
Um, it's
and
funny
it's
with
funny
something
because
like that being so small because it's like, oh, that's the easiest one. There were like three iterations still. Like with the
yeah, I can
simplest
imagine.
thing, there's also a lot of possibilities. But
Yeah, I wonder how many iterations it took for them then to go from that into building the mobile version. Because I know they built that
mhm,
one internally. I think I saw someone saying they built that internally because they couldn't find a partner that they wanted to work with on for the mobile port.
oh wow,
Because
yeah, I knew they
I
did.
know I played like I unlocked I probably unlocked like 4 levels on Xcloud, and then they released the mobile version, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start over on mobile then,
Mm,
because try it out there, and I realized I do I like I the accessibility of the mobile version is because the game it does take up any storage space and all, and I like the portrait mode makes it a game that makes me prefer playing on Vampire Survivors on mobile. But honestly, the like play like control wise, I would say the Xcloud version is better.
yeah,
Um,
cool.
because you have the on screen stick is actually like it's off centered. You don't because there's a lot of times where I will hold my finger over my character and drag around and I like lose track of where I'm moving and like, oh no, I
Mhm.
didn't do it that much, and mi- move too close to an enemy. So yeah, I prefer playing on the Xcloud version from a control standpoint, but I do
Cool. That's awesome to
prefer
hear.
the mobile version when because it due to the accessibility of it all.
I wish I could do that. There's some cool things that I never got to do with any of the other games because it would just it could confuse players. But there's some cool tricks that we only used in a couple of ways that I can think of some really cool things I could do with Vampire Survivors. Um, so yeah, it'd
Yeah,
be
that
cool
would be
to
cool. Cool to explore in the future, maybe.
have access to that
Um,
again.
yeah, but then um, you mentioned some of of your favorite ones. Are there any where you were like, yeah, we could have done much better there. I wish I could go back and redo that one because I'm not happy with how it turned out.
I don't think that I should say that.
Yeah,
I feel like
fair
that's
enough.
a
Fair enough.
question I should not answer. There
Yeah,
were
fair enough.
uh, there were ones where I went back later and said, "Hey, actually," and we did fix things. So like people know like that.
Did
I
you
did
fix
get to
the
happen.
lawnmower simulator one?
Which one?
The lawnmower simulator.
I didn't work on that one at all.
Because I remember when I tried it, the button to like because it had custom controls, so like there wasn't an A button to do it was instead of the A button was a button to do what the A button was supposed to do.
Hmm.
But there was like the button to increase the throttle didn't exist in the touch overlay, so you couldn't
Hmm.
actually start driving like
Jeez.
um, and I know I pointed that out, I've been meaning to go back and check it if it's fixed, but I haven't got around to it. But
Hmm.
I was just curious if that ever got fixed. But then you did then obviously you did go back and you should tell if you remember which ones. You should tell me afterwards because that means I need to go back into my documents and
You're
redo a
right.
couple.
I'll try to
'Cause,
think.
yeah.
Try to think on it.
But did the obviously Game Pass rotates games in and out. So some of the work that you did is now no longer there. Like you, uh,
I
for
don't
now. I
know.
mean, I'm assuming that
I don't
some
know if any
like
of it's been. If any of
yeah,
I was
maybe
actually
yours haven't been yet,
Googling.
but they will maybe in the future. Um,
Yeah, some of it will go away,
yeah.
and
And like I'm assuming that like over time it will be some at some point it will be any game you buy on Windows or Xbox is
Bring your
now
own
then
games.
yeah, like you can now play that on Xcloud as well if you have a
I I know
account you can play your own.
I had my
That is
fingers
coming also.
crossed for that the whole time too. I
Yeah,
like someday. I hope
mouse and
someday
keyboard
we.
support. That and mouse and
Yeah.
keyboard support is my, and also multiplayer local multiplayer support. Having two controls connected on one
Hmm.
device. Like those are my three. Like when that comes to Game Pass,
Hmm.
Xcloud, it's like perfect. But like how does it feel to know that some of the work that you did will at least for an undisclosed amount of time or
Hmm.
possibly forever be gone? Uh,
It makes me really sad. Not so. There are games that I did that will never leave because they're like proprietary. They're
yeah, yeah,
like owned by Xbox. They'll be on there forever. So I'm not worried about my mark leaving, but it makes me really sad because um, it's not just the normal thing with games getting taken off and new games getting put on is that it refreshes. It's you can't have games stay on forever because that defeats the value
yeah,
of
yeah,
Xcloud. It would have to cost more every year. But the thing that makes me really sad about that is if we don't start creating touch controls again, especially the way that Katie and I
yeah.
did. Uh, I it makes me sad that the people who only 20% of people who play on XCloud play exclusively with touch controls, and so
Oh, is it that
that
high?
doesn't that is a stat.
Oh,
Yeah, that is an actual um, a stat that we had, and uh, it
it's
that
like
doesn't
way more
include
than I
people
thought it would
who
be.
yeah, and some people still mostly play with touch controls,
Yeah,
even the people
and
who
yeah, and
do
some
both.
people will be, yeah, and I'm maybe 50-50, and I'm
Hmm.
assuming like also some people will be like, yeah, I play mostly with a controller connected to my phone, but then every now and then I don't bring my controller,
Yep.
and yeah,
And
so
so yeah, it makes me sad that like that 20% and easily more than that 20% will miss out on so much. Like if those were the games they played, or um, if they if they get whittled down to like such a small group of like high quality uh, like touch control design and like icon design, that would be
yeah,
really unfortunate.
yeah, I agree. So then, um, like it feels to me like Game Pass with Touch is one of like several ways that Microsoft is trying to get a foothold in mobile, and I mean also with like I think Phil has said himself in an interview like the main reason they want to buy Activision Blizzard King is King. They want the mobile division. Like they want the rest as well. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm
Hmm.
sure they want all of it,
Yep.
but like King is the reason they want in there in the first place. And I mean they talked about having like an Xbox store on mobile where you could just find a game, browse a game like an app store, find a game, hit play, and it will stream or download or depending on whatever it is. Like, you feel do you feel like personally that cloud is the best way to bring like a new level of game like next level of mobile games to mobile? Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think like we talked about before, just um, the amount, uh, the amount of game that can be played, um, like the quality of graphics and gameplay style. I think that if mobile games, if cloud, trying to think of the right way to say this, mobile game, there are great mobile games.
yeah,
I've loved um, some mobile games, but if if mobile games were superior to playing on cloud, then cloud wouldn't be a thing. Like
yeah.
cloud is it's the next step. It's what allows mobile games to do more than they can do when downloaded onto a device.
Yeah. And I mean, just from a personal standpoint, comparing like my experiences with playing Genshin Impact on mobile, because I used to play Genshin Impact on mobile. Now I don't play it as much, but I do play it every now and then. And when I play it now, I play it using GeForce Now because they have essentially it like the UI is the same as playing locally on mobile, but I don't have to store it on my phone, and I
Mm-hmm.
get the graphics settings of the PC version with like maximum graphics. So obviously, like to me, Genshin Impact through GeForce Now is the best way to play Genshin Impact. I would on a phone, I would argue. So
We're gonna have
uh,
to exchange. We have to be friends on Genshin.
yeah, and I need to play it more. Recently I go in to play one daily quest a week, and I'm like, oh, I should play more, but I not right now, a bit later, and then I just forget about it. But yeah,
I
definitely.
gotta get. I gotta get Dea. So it's the new character coming out soon.
Yeah, I'm kind of keen to get the this that opera guy, like the musical guy that they added like a month back or a couple of weeks back. Because I follow like the guy who voices him is a guy who also has a YouTube channel, and I follow that YouTube channel for like a year, and then it's like, oh, he's
An
now doing
opera
voice
guy?
acting. Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name. Something I think it was something with V, like sounded kind of like Eastern European sounding name of the character.
Huh.
Okay,
Can't
I'll
think
give
of
it
it
a
right
look.
now. There's
He's
the musical. There is an opera singer who I think it's in Chinese or Korean. It's the opera singer voices the character. But either way, you can hear the actual opera singer. But that one's a female character. Venti is the
yeah,
V.
no,
I'm gonna
Dvorak.
rename it.
Dvorak is the one I was thinking about.
Vorak?
Yeah, Dvorak. He showed up in mid January, I think. And the voice actor behind that is a guy who goes called Marco Domenico. He has a YouTube channel where he basically like he started out as a reaction channel where he did like
He's gonna
reacts
be a
to video
playable
music.
character?
Maybe not a playable character, but he's at least
Oh,
has a
okay.
significant story
Yeah, yeah, he
to
had
him.
a story in the. Okay,
Yeah, because
that
I
makes.
really like into like get into that story because since I follow him on YouTube, it'd be weird to hear his voice in a whole
Yep.
different thing. But
Yeah,
he's
he's
also
in the.
funnily enough an actual opera singer. Um,
That's awesome.
so hopefully he gets to feature more as well in the future. No, but
Yep.
yeah, I think I mean I think we've gone through all the questions that I've written down and several others as well,
Yep.
which is always great fun. And it is getting kind of late for me. It's so we should
Cool.
probably start wrapping
Yeah,
things
no
up. So,
problem.
like, what do you think is next for you? Like, do you have any plans? What to do next? Obviously, you're
I've
in between things right now, but
networking and applying. I am going to keep working on Betwixt, which was my global game jam for 2023 game. I did get it was me and my wife, our nephew helped a little bit with the world design, environmental design. But otherwise, it was voice actors and a musician. So I have more voice acting and music to add to the game, and I'm going to give it an actual ending, some more cinematics, and maybe some other features as I learn more and more about UE5. Uh, but yeah, hopefully getting a job soon. Um, just I got more than halfway through the interview process with a AAA game company, and then I am still I didn't make it any further with that one, but I am still more than halfway through. Well, I think I'm 3 interviews in at another
yeah,
large game. I'm not
sounds
going to
like
say
it's
names, but a
yeah,
very large game
sounds like
company. So
it's around the corner for you then. I hope you
hopefully,
get something for soon. And I mean, keep doing those game jams. I mean, you heard from Jem. He's getting at least some cash out of doing it
hmm
some silly late game on the side. And I mean, it worked out great for Notch as well. I mean, so you never know.
right.
Keep building those games as well. I for one look forward to following you as well closely and see where you end up next and play. I'm not gonna play that game that you're working on right now because it's not my genre at all. I don't do horror games. like so like stay. I played Amnesia for 5 minutes and I'm like nope, never again.
Yep.
That's my
That was
experience with the
an.
horror games.
I know we gotta go, but that was a really interesting one for me because I didn't want my son Liren. I didn't
Yeah, I
want
can
to play
imagine.
those in front of him, And so I did all of my work on those games in the early morning and the late evening in October. And so,
Ooh.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I will tell
Nope.
you,
Nope. Nope. Nope.
uh, playing horror games with touch controls is way scarier in a way that I had not
Yeah.
anticipated.
Thank
Because
you.
the things are not jumping. So a TV screen's like a window in front of you. The things are not jumping at a window and going rar. They're jumping at your hands, which are touching the screen.
Yeah.
So it like
I.
feels like they
I.
at you.
Yeah. Even like Hello Neighbor felt uncomfortable for me to play. I
Yep.
don't do horror like at all. The horror movies, horror games, I don't. Yeah. But anything other than that you make, I will definitely check out.
Cool.
And like you have you're more than welcome to join. I like rock players whenever you feel like it as well. So
Cool.
just
Thank you.
ping me if you have a Thursday afternoon free and want to chat gaming. You're more than
Will
welcome to
do.
join us. But then thank you so much for doing this show with me, Joe, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And
Sorry, one last note with what's
yeah,
next.
no, of course.
Hopefully more touch controls. Hopefully I get to
Yes,
help with that.
good. So if you are a
That would
developer and
really.
want to bring touch controls to your game, talk to Joe. He knows what he's doing. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
thank you for
hope to see more
having
of
me.
that. It was a
Yep.
blast having you, and I hope this is the last time. Yes, I would love
Yep.
to chat with you more for in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and anyone watching, then I hope you enjoyed this chat. If you are a developer who wants to chat with me, reach out, and I would love to do this with more developers. That's that's it. I think that's the outro. I think
Yep.
we got it.
Sounds good.
Cheers. Bye.